Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm happy to introduce our special guest, Doug Lucas of Better Home Inspections. Doug's been a home inspector for 10 years and also has over 25 years of home renovation experience. Doug, thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Katie, thank you for
Yeah.
asking me to be here. It's great to be here.
My pleasure. If you are looking to buy a home, or even if you are an existing homeowner and want to know the value of a home inspection, this video is for you. So keep watching. And if it's not for you, share it with one person that you know. So, Doug, I'll start right away into our questions. What is the most important reason for a homeowner or a home buyer to have a home inspection completed?
Well, Katie, there can be certain hidden issues that really aren't familiar to the average buyer. And when they get into $1 million decision, it's really important for somebody who has an expertise in and an understanding of how homes have transitioned and the construction practices over time. To
Mhm.
be able to point those things out so people are aware when they're making these decisions, it's really a critical thing.
Yeah. So what do you say to home buyers then in, current market situations where it's super busy and a recommendation is put forward to go subject free? So it sort of limits their opportunity to do home inspection. How do you get what advice would you have in that scenario?
Well, that can be a real important issue because I have seen people go blindly into home inspections. I've done home inspections after the fact, and in some cases, the people have said, "You know what? I might not have bought this home if I had known those things when I did buy it." So, what I've done at Better Home Inspections is I've developed a 5 point home inspection that is a reduced rate, but it's also it's not comprehensive. It covers the key issues of a home. So when you walk through a home and you fall in love with it and you want to put an offer on that, you can have somebody look at the major components of that home, like the roof, the attic, mechanical system, heating, air conditioning, the plumbing, and the electrical. And those are things that you typically don't look at when you go to an open house,
Mm.
and that you can have a lot more confidence in that process of making an offer.
Now, can you do that as a pre-inspection?
Yes,
So if there is an opportunity before offers are being accepted?
that's correct. And I usually come in and spend a couple of hours doing that very process that I've just described, and people come out of that with either a decision not to buy or a decision saying, "Hey, I'm comfortable putting this offer on this house."
Yeah. Now, what are you looking for in a full comprehensive home inspection? What are you looking for?
Well, there's not really one specific thing that comes up. I think that if I look for one specific thing, I might be blinded to other things. Like every house tells its story, the era of the house, the construction practices, who constructed the house, how they maintained it. Like the home handyman is sometimes a real problem when it comes to home inspections because they think they're a hero, but they're really not,
Mm.
and they can produce some products that really need work for safety reasons as well as cosmetic and overall appeal to the customer. So I look for everything. I don't just label it as one particular issue, but some of the important issues are the roof because that's your number one defense against the elements.
And
Um, it,
perhaps the
it,
biggest expense if it needs to be repaired, or one
exactly,
of, one of.
exactly. And the attic to make sure there's no mold, there's no moisture, they have proper insulation, proper ventilation. The heating system is also really critical, although that one is probably less costly to repair if you run into problems down the road. But those are some of the big ticket items, and those are the ones that I spend the most time.
Now, is it a different process for detached homes versus stratas, be it a condo or townhome?
Somewhat. A strata basically takes on responsibilities typically with the exterior of the building or the complex. And so they will look after the roof and they'll look after the hot water supply for domestic as well as heating purposes. And so I don't have to spend as much time looking at those issues. But having said that, it's nice that I do spend some time at it. I go over depreciation reports as well, which I think that very few inspectors will actually do that.
Mm.
But I like to make people aware of the potential upcoming expenditures so that they're not subject to a special levy down the road.
So that was a question I had for you is why have a home inspection if you do have a strata depreciation report that would indicate what expenditures are coming up or what the recommendation of fixes or updates or upgrades is?
Well, stratas don't always allow, or they don't always hire an engineering firm to come in and do a depreciation report. I think every 3 years they have to make a decision, and they can, on the basis of three-quarters of the votes, they can either vote in favor of or they can decline to have a depreciation report. So those aren't always available. So looking at the actual roof of the building, the mechanical system, how they're responding to latent issues in the property is really an important step. And some home inspectors don't do that. They allow the strata to make their own decisions. But I prefer to confirm or point out things that they maybe have missed or tendencies that they're not doing. The health of a strata is really the key to satisfaction for a home buyer.
Oh yeah. Now, what sort of reporting do you provide your clients with?
I have a real in-depth report system. It's not a checkbox system where I go through every single thing with a short answer. I take my time and I write out my reports in detail so that home buyers will actually understand what's going on. And I try and make it as clear and as simple and accurate as I can so that they can understand fully what they're getting into. And when they're making their offer, when they're buying that house, they have a confidence that
Mhm.
there probably aren't a lot of issues down the road that they're not aware of. And I like to take people through a walkthrough of the home because I find that showing them the issues in a home, they understand better and they also remember better the issues. Reading a report is good, and I do make my reports very detailed, but it's not always the answer for every buyer.
Yeah, having being able to see it as it's reported to you,
Yes,
definitely. I know too, I've walked into a property and my heart takes over rather than the rational side, and I see myself cooking in the kitchen and I don't notice the items that are of grave importance, right? You can change paint, you can change, the electrical,
right.
whatever you even call them, the plates and the lipstick, right? You can
That's right.
update those items, but you're looking more for the bones of the property and things that are going to have a large cost if not addressed.
That's exactly right. And sometimes love is blind. You walk in and fall in love with that renovation that people have done, and that as a result of that, you don't see things that are really important. I like to make sure I spend a lot of time on the important issues so that the big expense down the road just, is minimized.
Now, what is the most overlooked thing?
I don't know if there's one single thing. It depends a lot on the era of the house and the construction practices during that time frame, how people have maintained the house. Um, I, and again, I don't like to focus on one particular issue because that's like falling in love with that kitchen, or in the man's case, wow, that shop was just amazing. I can see myself in there all day long, and it just meets my needs. So I like to be open minded enough and aware enough that I'm catching all of the issues.
Yeah,
I like to spend the time on the high ticket items, the big
yeah.
cost if something breaks down or if something is not quite what
But
it should be at the
as you have
time they
said,
buy.
as you've said, in certain eras or when the homes were built, there are certain trends that potentially can exist if things haven't been updated, upgraded, renovations or extensions that were done without permitting. My
Right.
parents did an extension out the back, and somebody looked at the deck today and went, "This would never be built today." But
Yeah.
for someone, if they were to buy that home, that might be an issue, right?
Well, one of the items that I spend time on is if there's poly V piping in the home.
Mm.
And when that poly B piping comes out to the shut off at the city street, I've seen over and over and over again where it's burst a pinhole leak has formed underneath the driveway. And what happens in the event of that is that it erodes the substrate underneath, and the driveway above begins to collapse and
Yeah.
heave. And when I see that, I look around in the neighborhood, and typically the construction practices aren't just for this one particular house, they're everywhere in that neighborhood. And
Yeah.
I can remember being on the business end of a shovel digging up a driveway to find the leak. And uh, I dug down 6 feet and found these huge empty spaces where the water had eroded the substrate. And as a result, the driveway was heaving and cracking. Well, typically, a home inspector that's just doing his job to get to the next home inspection will look at that and just say, well, there's cracks in the driveway. Yeah, there are cracks in the driveway, but the
Why?
repair
Bigger
is
issue.
really expensive. And
Yeah.
so I have some hands-on experience with some of those issues, and I can remember reporting that to one homeowner, and he agreed with me that he didn't want to buy the home as a result. I didn't talk him out of that. He made his own decision.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I made him aware of the repercussions there.
Yeah. So I was going to say, you're not making a recommendation to buy or not to buy. Your
Correct.
role is to advise of items that you see and things that could have a potential cost to repair, fix, update down the road.
Right. The current condition of a house on the day of the inspection.
Okay. Yeah. Now, how does someone choose a home inspector?
Well, I spend a lot of time with people, and I have my tagline, doing it right because I care. And that's really what I am all about. I care. So whatever need that buyer has, I try and meet it. And every buyer has different needs. They have different questions, and no question is a dumb question
Hmm.
because it answers their particular need. It brings a confidence level to their decision making process, and that's my goal. And so I think that first of all, a home inspector needs to be comprehensive, and he needs to cover all the issues. The second part is he needs to care about his customer to the degree that he explains things and allows them to understand the significance of the issues and what they're getting into. And I really thrive on that part of it. I have never had a call back in 10 years where people have said, "Hey, you missed these issues," or "I didn't know this was coming up, and I had a great big expense." I haven't had those because I do spend the time.
Yeah. As I say to clients too, this shouldn't be transactional. Nothing about the process of buying,
It,
today, even a townhouse or condo, $1 million,
oh gosh,
homes upward of two just for a starter home.
yeah,
It should not be transactional. Whomever you're working with should be able to provide you the time that you desire.
that's
Now,
right. And
what about licensing?
I'm fully licensed through Consumer Protection BC, um, and insured as well through liabilities and errors and omissions insurance. I sometimes think to myself, gee, I'm paying all this money into the insurance. I've never used it. I don't want to use it, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I'm fully licensed and insured. I do home inspections across the lower mainland. I'm a solopreneur, so I go where I need to go and I go where people ask me to go.
Awesome. Well, if people have further questions after watching today or want to refer someone to you, what's the best way to reach you?
Well, I prefer the direct contact, whether it's a phone call or a text message. An email works as well. It's just that I usually don't answer too many emails during my workday. It becomes a bit of a distraction, and I like to stay focused on the objective of the day. So, yeah, phone number
Okay.
and
Good.
text message is really good.
So if you need Doug and a better home inspection, feel free to reach him by phone. We'll include all of his contact details in the show notes. But thank you for taking the time again to chat with us today. I do know personally the value of a home inspection, so I hope we have reached at least one person today, or anyone watching. If you know one person that needs to know the value of a home inspection, please share some of this information or reach out to Doug directly. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.